you ready to read an article from the BBC with me? When you learn English with the news, it's a great way to learn advanced vocabulary, complex sentence structure, advanced grammar, and natural pronunciation in a really fun and engaging way. And make sure you watch right until the end because I'm going to read the article in full at the very end so you can practice along with your pronunciation. And I'll also share the link where you can download the PDF of the lesson that we reviewed today. Welcome back to JForrest English Training. Of course, I'm Jennifer, and this is your place to become a fluent, confident English speaker. Let's get started. Welcome to our article. So first, I'm going to read the article in full so you can follow along with my pronunciation and get an idea of the content of the article. And then we'll do a step-by-step analysis of the article so you can learn a lot of advanced grammar, vocabulary, and sentence structure. So let me read the article in full now. China urges calm over spy balloon in U.S. airspace. China has urged cool-headed handling of a dispute over a giant Chinese balloon heading for the eastern U.S. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken earlier called off a visit to Beijing, saying the surveillance balloon's presence was an irresponsible act. Later, the U.S. reported a second Chinese balloon floating over Latin America. China expressed regret over the balloon over the U.S., saying it was a weather airship that had been blown astray. It was last spotted over Missouri. It is expected to reach America's East Coast near the Carolinas this weekend. The U.S. has decided not to shoot down the high-altitude airship due to the danger of falling debris. The incident comes amid fraying tensions between the U.S. and China. In a statement on Saturday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said Beijing never violated the territory and airspace of any sovereign country. It said its senior foreign policy official Wang Yi had discussed the incident with Mr. Blinken over the phone, stressing that maintaining communication channels at all levels was important, especially in dealing with some unexpected situations in a calm and reliable manner. It added that Beijing would not accept any groundless conjecture or hype and accused some politicians and media in the United States of using the incidents as a pretext to attack and smear China. According to U.S. officials, the airship floated over Alaska and Canada before appearing over the U.S. state of Montana, which is home to a number of sensitive nuclear missile sites. The incident angered top U.S. officials, with Mr. Blinken saying he had told Beijing the balloon's presence was a clear violation of U.S. sovereignty and international law and an irresponsible act. He called it unacceptable and even more irresponsible coming on the eve of a long-planned visit. Now let's review the article in more detail, and I'll explain some of the key vocabulary, grammar, and sentence structure. So first, our headline: China urges calm over spy balloon in U.S. airship. So here's the apparent spy balloon. So this word may be new to you, to urge. This is a verb, to urge. It's conjugated in the present simple, and I know that because it has an S, which means it's conjugated with the subject China, which is it. He, she, it, so we add that S in the present simple. Now to urge, this is a verb, and this means to strongly advise or recommend. You can think of it as recommend as well. This is a very common verb. Here's an example sentence. My teacher urged me, so you can urge someone to do something. So that's the sentence structure. And notice our verb is in the past simple because it's a completed action. My teacher urged me to practice my speaking skills. So it's a strong recommendation or strongly advised. You should do this. And it's a strong recommendation. So very commonly used. So China is strongly suggesting that everybody stay calm over the spy balloon. Let's continue on. Again, we see our urge. This time, what verb tense is it in? Urge. You might think it's the past simple because you see this ed, but you have to look because we have an auxiliary verb has, which means it is the present perfect. China has urged. Present perfect. And it's being used because it's a past action. China already did this. It's completed action, but there's a result in the present. The result in the present is right now. I want you to remain calm. China has urged cool-headed. Cool-headed, this is an adjective. Now, to remain cool-headed is another way of saying calm because we describe someone who has a quick temper, so someone who gets angry very quickly and easily. We call them hot-headed. Hot-headed. So cool-headed, and this is head in the sense of your head. Cool-headed is someone who remains calm. But in this case, we're using it to describe how you're going to handle the situation. So it's literally another way of saying calm. So that is cool-headed. So you probably know someone who is hot-headed, and you probably know someone who is cool-headed as well. China has urged cool-headed handling of a dispute over a giant Chinese balloon heading for the eastern U.S. So here's the balloon, the spy balloon. Heading is another way of saying going in a particular direction. So it's going from one location to another location. Its heading is going towards the direction of the eastern U.S. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken earlier called off a visit to Beijing. When you call something off, this is a phrasal verb, very common phrasal verb, and it means to cancel a plan or an arrangement. So the Secretary of State had already planned to visit Beijing, but I'm calling it off. You're canceling that plan you already had. So you might have planned to go to a conference at work, but then the conference was called off. The conference was called off. This is in the passive because I'm not specifying who called off, who canceled the conference. I could say the organizers called off the conference. So that's an example in the active sentence. So again, to cancel, but you already had a plan or an arrangement to do something. So you can use this with vacation plans, business plans as well. Saying the surveillance balloon's presence was an irresponsible act. So this is the reason why the Secretary of State called off, canceled the visit because of the spy balloon. Okay, let's continue on. Later, the U.S. reported a second Chinese balloon, floating over Latin America. So float, that is the action that a balloon does. It floats in the air. To float. China expressed regret over the balloon over the U.S. This is kind of an awkward sentence structure because we have over and over again, but it's required because you have regret over something. That's the preposition we need with regret. So you might say, she felt a lot of regret over calling off the wedding. Ooh. So she had planned a wedding, her wedding, and then she called it off. She canceled it. I'm not getting married anymore. And then she has regret over that action. This is just the preposition choice we use to connect regret with the clause in the sentence, what you regret. Now, just to show you, to focus in on the word regret, because we often use this just as a verb as well. She regretted, and then this is a gerund verb, which means our verb that follows needs to be in the ing form. She regretted calling off the wedding. So notice the sentence structure. These two sentences have the exact same meaning, but in this example, the verb is felt. Regret is being used as a noun. A lot of regret as a noun. It's a something. But in this case, regret is the verb. So we don't need a preposition over for the verb because it's not a phrasal verb. It's just a verb, but it is a gerund verb. So you need an ing that follows it. And this is the noun. You can feel regret. You can have regret. She had a lot of regret over calling off the wedding. So both of these are common verbs. So you can practice having regret as a noun and regret as a verb in the comments below. So that's why we have over right here. It's required. Now this over is talking about location or distance. So the US is here, and then the balloon is physically, in terms of distance, located over the US. And remember, it's floating in space. It's over the US. So that's why we have two prepositions. They're being used in totally different ways. Saying it was a weather airship. So this is a weather airship all the way from China in the US. That's what they say. That had been blown astray. Astray is an adverb, and when something goes astray, it means it's no longer in the correct location. So to astray, to go or move in a different location from intended. So you have the location you want it to go. That's the intended location. But then it went astray, it blew astray, it moved astray, it went in a different location. That's what astray means. I don't think you'll use it too much in your vocabulary, to be honest, but just to understand what it means here. It was last spotted over Missouri. Missouri is a state in the United States. Spotted is another way of saying to see, to notice, to locate something specific. So if you're looking for stars, you might say, oh, wow, I spotted the Big Dipper, a constellation of stars. I saw, I noticed, I located the Big Dipper. So last spotted, last seen or noticed over Missouri. It is expected to reach America's East Coast near the Carolinas this weekend. Carolinas is plural because there are two states. There's North Carolina and South Carolina. So it's commonly referred to both of them as the Carolinas, which represents North and South Carolina. The U.S. has decided not to shoot down the high altitude airship due to the danger of falling debris. So the high altitude airship, that is what they're calling the floating balloon, the spy balloon, the high altitude airship. Okay, debris. Let's say you're in a car accident. So your car is in one piece, right? But then your car hits a wall and some pieces of your car fall off. Now, those pieces could be metal, plastic, glass, and all of those pieces would be called debris. Notice the pronunciation, debris. I'm not pronouncing this S at all. Debris. So I would say this is broken or small pieces from one whole object. So right now, this balloon is a whole object, but if they shoot it, it's going to go in all these little pieces. Some of those pieces might have metal, might have glass, might have objects, debris that could harm people, that could harm buildings, animals if it fell from the sky, right? So that's why they're not shooting it down. Okay. The incident comes amid fraying tensions between the U.S. and China. Amid is a preposition in the middle of or surrounded by, depending on the context. So amid, now let's look at the rest of it. Amid fraying tensions. Fray is when you become increasingly upset or annoyed, increasingly upset or annoyed. And tensions, when there is tension between two people, it's uncomfortable, it's some anger, some negative emotion, and those negative emotions are increasing. That's what the fraying means. And amid is in the middle of. So we have these tensions. There's US, there's China. They're both kind of angry, upset, annoyed. And then the incident happened, the balloon happened in the middle of these tensions. So that's what the sentence means there. So let's continue on. In a statement on Saturday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said Beijing never violated the territory and airspace of any sovereign country. So they're defending themselves. It said its senior foreign policy official, Wang Yi. So this it is the statement. The statement. That's what this it represents. The statement said its senior foreign policy official, Wang Yi, had discussed the incident with Mr. Blinken over the phone, stressing that maintaining communication channels at all levels was important. So when you stress something, you highlight it, you emphasize it, you want the person to pay attention to it. So we often say, I can't stress enough how important practicing your speaking skills is. So we generally say, I can't stress enough, and then we have a clause. It's just my way of saying your speaking skills, practicing your speaking skills is extremely important, and I want to emphasize this point. I want to highlight this point. I want to stress this point. So you can stress a point or opinion, which means to emphasize it. And what they're stressing here is that we need to maintain communication at all levels. especially in dealing with some unexpected situations in a calm and reliable manner. Remember, we learned another way of saying calm, cool-headed, in a cool-headed and reliable manner. Let's continue. It, again, the statement, it added that Beijing would not accept any groundless conjecture or hype. Conjecture is when you guess without proof. So, and groundless means you have no evidence to support. So that accusation is groundless. There's no evidence to support. So I'll write that as well. Groundless. This is used a lot in legal situations because they deal a lot with evidence, right? So your accusation, your claim is groundless. No evidence. And accused some politicians and media in the United States of using the incidents as a pretext to attack and smear China. When you smear someone, it's when you try to damage their reputation. So to smear, this is a verb. To smear, a verb. And to smear, and it means to damage one's reputation. And this is done on purpose. You're not accidentally smearing someone. You're doing it on purpose. So one politician will attempt to smear another politician, maybe by releasing some photos of them doing something inappropriate, and they do that to smear that politician, to damage that politician's reputation. According to U.S. officials, the airship floated over Alaska and Canada before appearing over the U.S. state of Montana, which is home to a number of sensitive nuclear missile sites. The incident angered top U.S. officials, with Mr. Blinken saying he had told Beijing the balloon's presence was a clear violation of U.S. sovereignty and international law and an irresponsible act. He called it unacceptable and even more irresponsible coming on the eve of a long-planned visit. So the eve of is the day before, Most people know this because of Christmas Eve. This is a holiday, Christmas Eve, and it's December 24th, which is the night before Christmas. So the eve of is the night before. I'm not sure if I said day or night earlier, but it's the night before. That's the eve of. So I might say I'm planning a nice dinner the eve of my wedding. So it means the night before your wedding. So we generally use the eve of with large events, life events, business events, world events, but we don't usually use it just to talk about the night before a regular day. We use it more with special occasions or special events, the eve of. And that is our article.
Amazing job with this lesson. Now I've left the link to the PDF where you can review all the vocabulary, the sentence structure, the grammar right in the description. So if you look in the description of this video, you'll see the link. And if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe. And before you go, make sure you head on over to my website, JForrestEnglish.com, and download your free speaking guide. In this guide, I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. And until next time, happy studying.